Your credit score is not a symbol of wealth, but instead a measurement of how well you pay back your debt. Now, I'm not saying having a credit score and having a high credit score is not important, but it's something that you shouldn't stress your head over when you're trying to become financially responsible and, become financially free. But a credit score is really important, and a lot of people struggle with understanding the basics of increasing your credit score and increasing your credit limit. And as a 24-year-old, for reference, my credit score is around 760, and my credit limit across all my cards is close to $100,000. And in this video, I just want to highlight the key things that I did that helped me kind of get to where I'm at when it comes to credit in general. I have some notes here to the side, so if you see me looking here, I'm just looking at my notes. First, when it comes to credit score in general, I guess the three most important things you should always remember is the length of your credit history, your missed payments, and then your credit utilization rate. For each, basically, each thing I just listed, those are important factors when it comes to determining your credit score. I got my first credit card at 18 years old, which means once I turned 18 and I opened up a credit card, my credit history was 0. If I could go back in time, one main cheat code to increase your credit history immediately is by becoming an authorized user. What this means is that you ask a parent or one of your siblings, if they have good credit history, you ask to become an authorized user. And what this means is that on their credit account, they open up a credit card and it's in your name. And by doing that one thing, their credit history is now part of your credit history. Let's say you have a mom or dad or brother, sister, whoever, and they have great credit. And let's say their credit history is like 20 years. Just by becoming an authorized user, you now have that credit history, which means you have 20 years worth of credit, but you're only 18 years old? Exactly. It's like a literal cheat code to getting your credit history increased immediately. So one, open up your credit card as soon as possible at 18, but also if you can become an authorized user as well. For number two, no missed payments. A lot of y'all struggle with credit and credit cards and all this stuff because you can't handle your money. You really can't. And if you're one of those people, it's okay. You're going to budget. You're going to get better with it. That's fine. An easy way to increase your credit score, right, and never miss any payment is just by opening up a card, put a monthly subscription on that card, a Netflix subscription, a Spotify, an Amazon Prime subscription, right? You set up a monthly subscription, nothing more than like $15, $20. And what you're going to do is basically set up automatic payments for that card. Automatic payments means it'll automatically pull money from your bank account every payday, not payday, but like bill day. So let's say your card's due on the 15th. The 15th every month, it'll take money from your account and pay off your card. Now, if you only have that one subscription on that card and you hide the card, don't use it, cut it up even, do whatever, that means they're only going to pull out $15 or $20 every month. But in the eyes of the banks, it's like, hey, this person's using the card monthly, their credit utilization is really low, and they're making their payments on time and they're not missing it. That's great. Let's increase their credit score. Let's increase their credit limit. So an easy way to avoid missed payments in general is by setting up automatic payments and calling it a day. Again, don't overcomplicate it. If you don't have the money and if you're not emotionally responsible or disciplined to handle that, burden of having $1,000 credit limit and fearing you might use all of it or not pay it back, just set up a monthly subscription. The third most important factor, as I said, is your credit utilization rate. This is essentially how much money you're using on your credit card divided by the total balance or the total limit that you have across all your credit cards. So for example, it can be something simple as that you have a credit card, the limit is $1,000 and you spent $300. That means your credit utilization rate is 30% because you have 300 divided by 1,000, which is 30%. Now, it's best to keep your credit utilization rate under 30% just because it shows the bank hey, even though this person has access to this much money, they're not using all of it. They're being, mindful, responsible with their money. And that's good in the bank's eyes because it shows okay, if we gave this person $100,000, we can trust them a little bit more than another person because we know they don't have a history of using up all of their credit, so they're less likely going to do that now. So those are the three main things you want to be mindful of when getting this credit card. And once I got a credit card, I would do those things, okay? Well, not the authorized user part because I didn't really have anyone. But again, I opened up a credit card at 18, set up automatic payments, and then I just made sure to never, go close to my credit card limit and make sure I'm paying this card off every single month. By the end of my first year in college, I probably got my credit score close to 700. And one thing you have to realize is that when it comes to your credit score, it's also important to not focus just on your credit cards, but also other types of loans. Because when you have a different mix of loans, it helps improve your credit score. And sorry, not a mix of loans, but a mix of debt, right? So a credit card is like a revolving debt, kind of. That's a different type. And another different form of debt are loans, student loans, car loan, mortgages, and so forth. And for me, I didn't have a car loan, I didn't have a mortgage, and I really didn't have any student debt. So one thing that I did is I got a personal loan, also known as a credit builder loan, essentially. And I went to a credit union. I took out a loan in my name, and instead of the bank giving me the money, they kept the money and they made the monthly payments on that loan for me. So essentially, right, it's called a credit builder loan. And instead of you keeping the money, the bank keeps it and they pay the loan for you. And in the eyes of the creditor bureaus and the banks, they're like, oh, this person took out $1,000 loan and they're making their monthly payments while also having credit cards and making monthly payments there. This person's responsible. Let's increase their credit score. Let's increase their limit. And this happens over the course of a couple months. And eventually, before you know it, you can easily increase your credit score to 700 and plus. So again, look into getting a credit builder loan as well, because that's an easy way to increase your credit score. Now, that's how you increase your credit score. Now you might be wondering, how do you increase your credit limit, right? When I first started with that Discover student card, I had a close to, I think, like $800 available in credit limit. Now I got like damn near 100,000 across my different credit cards. The easiest way to do this, right? And what I'm about to tell you, you got to be very, very disciplined with this. But the easiest way to increase your credit limit is by using your credit card. Look, after that Discover student card, once I started getting more money, whether it was working more hours, getting more refund checks, I would use that credit card like a daily debit card. However, I was still disciplined enough to make those monthly payments in full every single month. And by doing this, just by doing that one thing, in the bank's eyes, they're like, oh, Love is using his credit card. His limit's only 800, but he's spending 500, 600, another 500, 600. And even though I'm spending those high numbers, I pay it off immediately, just so I don't have a utilization rate that's so high all the time. But by doing this, the bank's starting to notice like, hey, Love is spending a lot of money and he's paying it on time. How about we give him a credit increase because he probably needs more money to spend with. And that's what would happen. The more and more I use my card, the more and more they would increase my credit limit. And that was helpful. Now, once I got out of school, a cheat code, and one of my favorite cheat codes here is that I got a full-time job. I started to have a salary earning a lot more money than a student. So one of the hacks that I did, and it's not really a hack, it's just like most people don't know, so I'm gonna call it a hack. If you go in your credit card apps, you can request a credit line increase. And so what I would do essentially is once I got my full-time job, cool. I'm no longer making, I don't know, let's say maybe, I think minimum wage was like $15 an hour. I'm no longer making that. No, I'm making now $70,000 a year, $80,000 a year, $100,000 a year. And granted, that's over the years, as my career and my income progresses. But once you actually think like, hey, can I get a credit line increase? I'm now making $70,000 with a full-time job after school, yada, yada. They will increase your credit limit. It's as simple as that. Just by asking, you can get your credit limit increase because you're starting to earn more money, which means that the bank will trust you with giving you more money because you have $80,000 income. Sure, we'll increase your credit limit to, let's say, $10,000 because we know you have the money coming in. We know you can pay it off and so forth. And so that's how the banks are thinking. And again, a mixture, right? A mixture of me using my credit card as a daily card, paying it off in full all the time. But also, anytime my pay increases, if I get a salary bump or a new job or a promotion, and let's say I go from $70,000 to $80,000 in salary, I'm going to let my credit card company know, like, hey, my salary increase I have some more expenses. Can I request a credit line increase? Sometimes they'll say yes, sometimes they'll say no. But it doesn't hurt to ask. Because if you ask, more than most likely you will get it. And just by doing that, my credit limit will increase over time. And now, that's for one card. Now imagine, you start to have 3 credit cards, 4 credit cards, and you do those for each card, then it makes sense on how you're able to basically increase your credit limit to close to $100,000 across 4 credit cards. So when it comes to building your credit score, building your credit limit, those were the key ways that I did it. Now, another thing I want to talk about is I should have started with this in the beginning maybe, but the whole point of a credit score is a judgment on how well you pay back your debt. And the reason it's important is because there's going to become a time in your life where you need to borrow money. Whether you need a car, you need to pay for your education, you need a house, you're renting, someone will want to see your credit score to know like, hey, can I trust this person if I give them this money, if I give them this loan? Will they pay me back on time? Will they pay me back in a reasonable, fashion? And your credit score is a representation of that. And that's why your credit score is so important. Because when it comes time to borrow money or you need someone to trust you with something, your credit score is a great measure of that. I think something that most people forget is that when you're building up your credit score, they have this idea that, oh, I need 800, 820, 830 credit score. Reality, you don't. Once you hit a 750 and above credit score, you're golden. You can almost apply for any credit card, any loan you're going to apply for. More than most likely, they'll give you the closest or the lowest interest rate available. It's basically like once you hit 750 and above, you completed this whole game of credit card. And really, that's when you don't need to worry about optimizing your credit to increase your score and doing certain things to increase your credit score and all these different hacks. Really, once you get a 750 credit score and above, the whole purpose or I guess job of your credit now is for you to maintain it. And the easiest way to maintain that is becoming disciplined with spending your money and then also just setting up automatic payments. I just given you the cheat code on how to increase your credit score immediately and increase your credit limit. The next step is becoming disciplined and responsible, because now you probably have a 750 plus credit score and you probably have a lot of money available on those credit cards to spend. And a big issue that most people run into is that they start to overspend. You see you have 50K available on one card, 20K available on one card, and now you start to run it up. And the issue is you can't pay any of that back. And so again, the whole point of getting to this 800, 850 credit score is for what? So you can say, I have an 850, I have an 800 credit score, whatever. The most important thing to remember is that once you get a credit score of 750 and above, you're golden. You're like done with the game of credit. Because if you apply for a loan, or if you apply, for some property, real estate, a rental unit, whatever, you're going to get it more than most likely. And the interest rate is probably going to be low. Whether you have a 750 or a 780 or 800, it's not going to make much of a difference. So once you get a credit score of 750 or above, you could take it easy. You don't have to kind of continue focusing and honing in about, do I pay it on this specific day before the statement? And, do I only use this percent of my money and then do this and that? And no, your credit score is already high enough, and that's that. You don't need to overthink it. And if you're one of those people that now have a high credit score, a high credit limit, and if you struggle with budgeting properly, staying disciplined, manage your debt, do what I said in the beginning. Get a couple of subscriptions, put it on your credit card, and hide those credit cards. Don't use it. Don't touch it. Just leave it alone. And I know some of you want to get your credit card reward points for your travel miles, your flights, all that stuff. Cool. I get that. But always remember that to get those miles, to get those points, to get those cashback dollars, you have to spend thousands of dollars on those credit cards just to get hundreds back. And I'm talking about hundreds in cash back, hundreds in miles back. And sometimes, not that it's not worth it, but it's not worth you forcing yourself to overspend and live a life you can't maintain just to gather points, just to gather cashback points, travel miles, all that stuff. It just doesn't add up. The most important thing I want you to remember is that your credit score is a representation of how well you pay back your debt. And it's important. It's important to have a good credit score because it can unlock doors and opportunities for you. But once you reach that point, as I said, that 750, even 720, around that range, once you reach that point of having a good credit score, stop focusing on trying to optimize and improve your credit score because over time, you will get there. Instead, my next challenge to you and to anyone watching this is focus on improving your net worth because that's more important than a high credit score.